fame, love, tragedy. When two stars fall in love, their story becomes a modern fairy tale, played out on the world stage. We celebrate their unions, follow their lives, and see them as icons of success and happiness. But what happens when the fairy tale becomes a nightmare? What happens when the lives of two people, bound by love and fame, are extinguished in a single horrific moment? Today, we are looking at the darkest side of celebrity life. These are not tales of quiet passings or peaceful goodbyes. These are the most horrific celebrity couple deaths ever recorded. From brutal home invasions to mysterious illnesses and fiery crashes, these are the stories of love stories cut short by violence, tragedy, and sheer, unbelievable horror. These are the final, shocking moments of couples who had it all and lost it all together. Case 1. The American Idol execution. Robin Kay, 70, was a pillar of the American music industry. As a longtime music supervisor and executive for the cultural phenomenon American Idol, she was a respected and powerful figure, a woman who helped shape the soundtrack of a generation. Her husband, Thomas DeLuca, also 70, was a talented musician. Together they were a beloved, low-key couple in the high-stakes world of Hollywood, living a quiet life in their multi-million-dollar home in the affluent Los Angeles suburb of Encino. Their home, like their lives, was supposed to be a safe haven, a fortress of calm in a chaotic world. But on July 10, 2025, that fortress was breached in the most brutal way imaginable, not by a targeted assassination, but by a random, senseless act of violence that exposed the vulnerability of even the most well-protected lives. On that fateful day, a neighbor noticed a suspicious man trying to get into the house and called the police. The LAPD responded, but seeing no signs of forced entry, they left. The intruder, it's believed, had already slipped inside through an unlocked door, a simple oversight with fatal consequences. He was lying in wait. Later that day, Robin and Thomas returned home from a simple grocery run, completely unaware that they were walking into a trap. Inside their own home, a violent confrontation erupted. The intruder, finding the couple's own handgun, turned it on them. He shot them both, multiple times. For 4 agonizingly long days, the couple lay dead inside their home. The thermostat was set low, and the doors were closed, masking any signs of the horror within. It wasn't until July 14th, when friends and family grew concerned after days of silence, that a welfare check was requested. Police arrived to a silent house. Seeing traces of blood at the entrance, they forced their way in and discovered the tragic scene. Robin and Thomas were found in separate rooms, their lives brutally ended in the one place they should have been safest. An autopsy revealed that Thomas likely died instantly. Robin, however, had survived for several minutes, bleeding out on the floor of her home. The suspect, 22-year-old Raymond Budarian, was arrested shortly after. He was a local man, and the crime was a robbery gone horribly wrong. He was charged with 2 counts of murder, but was later found mentally incompetent to stand trial. LA County District Attorney George Gascon stated, "The victims returned home while the suspect was inside their residence, and a confrontation ensued, which resulted in the suspect taking their lives." The murder of Robin Kay and Thomas DeLuca sent a shockwave through Hollywood. It was a brutal, senseless act that shattered the illusion of safety that wealth and fame can provide. It was a terrifying reminder that sometimes the monster isn't a stranger in a dark alley, but someone who has already slipped inside your home. Case 2. The Hollywood legend's last stand. Rob Reiner, 78, was more than a celebrity. He was a Hollywood institution. The legendary actor and director was the creative force behind some of the most beloved films of all time. His wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, 68, was a respected photographer and activist. They were a true Hollywood power couple, married since 1989, and the heart of a close-knit family that included their children and grandchildren, who lived nearby in the upscale Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles. December 14, 2025. Their idyllic life came to a brutal and bloody end. Around 3:38 p.m., the Los Angeles Fire Department received a call for medical aid at the Reiners' home on Chadbourne Avenue. But when first responders arrived, they walked into a scene of unimaginable horror. They found Rob and Michelle inside, both with extensive stab wounds. They were already beyond saving. The incident was immediately reclassified as a double homicide, and the LAPD's elite robbery homicide division took over the case. As news of the tragedy broke, the quiet, tree-lined street was transformed into a media circus. Friends of the couple, including Hollywood giants like Billy Crystal and Larry David, were seen rushing to a neighboring family property to comfort the Reiners' devastated daughter and grandchildren. The official cause of death was multiple stab wounds. While authorities remained tight-lipped about the specifics, the media described it as a brutal double stabbing. The question of who could commit such a heinous act against a beloved and universally respected couple hung heavy in the air. There were no immediate suspects, no obvious motives, and no prior threats that had been made public. The lack of information fueled widespread speculation. Was it a random act of violence, a targeted attack, a robbery gone wrong? The Reiner family released a heartbreaking statement. "It is with profound sorrow that we announce the tragic passing of Michelle and Rob Reiner. We are heartbroken by this sudden loss." LA Mayor Karen Bass added, "This is a devastating loss for our city and our country. Rob Reiner's contributions reverberate throughout American culture and society. The murder of Rob and Michelle Reiner was a chilling event that left Hollywood in a state of shock and mourning. It was a brutal and senseless act of violence that stole two of the industry's most cherished figures. Their deaths served as a grim reminder that even for those who live in the heart of the Hollywood dream, a real-life nightmare can be lurking just behind the door." Case 3. The Hollywood couple's toxic end. Brittany Murphy, at 32, was a vibrant and talented actress who had captured the hearts of audiences with her infectious energy and memorable roles in films like Clueless and 8 Mile Ice. Her husband, Simon Monjack, 39, was a British screenwriter and producer. Their marriage in 2007 was intense and insular, and as Brittany's career began to slow down, they spent more and more time isolated in their Hollywood Hills home, a property with a history of leaks and rumored mold issues that would later become a focal point of conspiracy theories. In late 2009, Brittany began to suffer from severe fatigue, dizziness, and persistent flu-like symptoms. Her family and husband dismissed it as a terrible cold, a gross underestimation of the seriousness of her condition. On the morning of December 20th, she felt extremely weak. She went to the bathroom to shower and collapsed. Her mother found her unresponsive on the bathroom floor. Paramedics rushed to the scene and attempted CPR, but it was too late. Brittany Murphy was pronounced dead at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Her death was shocking, but what happened next turned the tragedy into a bizarre and disturbing mystery. In the months that followed, Simon Monjack gave a series of erratic interviews, claiming to have seizures and heart problems. He refused to leave the house where his wife had died, and continued to live there with Brittany's mother, both of them taking multiple prescription medications and seemingly spiraling into a shared state of paranoia and grief. Then, on May 23, 2010, just 5 months after Brittany's death, her mother found Monjack unresponsive in the master bedroom, surrounded by prescription pill bottles. He, too, was dead. The official cause of death for both Brittany and Simon was pneumonia, with anemia as a contributing factor. Brittany's was worsened by a cocktail of prescription drugs. Simon's was complicated by an enlarged heart. The deaths were ruled natural, and no criminal charges were filed. But the fact that a husband and wife had died of the same rare combination of ailments in the same house within months of each other was deeply unsettling. Assistant Chief Coroner Ed Winter stated, "It is unusual to have two people die of similar circumstances with pneumonia. We've been looking at it and saying, something isn't right." He also noted that both were in very poor health and had failed to seek proper medical attention for their obvious and serious illnesses. The house itself became a subject of speculation, with many wondering if toxic mold had played a role. While officials ultimately dismissed this theory, the image of the couple wasting away in their Hollywood mansion, neglecting their health and surrounded by prescription drugs, remains a powerful and disturbing one. The deaths of Brittany Murphy and Simon Monjack are a tragic and cautionary tale of the dark side of fame, a story of isolation, neglect, and a bizarre shared fate that continues to haunt Hollywood to this day. Case 4. The Oscar winner's silent end. Gene Hackman, 95, was a titan of American cinema, a two-time Oscar-winning actor who had long since retired from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. He and his wife of over 30 years, Betsy Arakawa, 65, lived a quiet, low-profile life in the serene landscape of Santa Fe, New Mexico. As Gene's health declined with advanced Alzheimer's and serious heart disease, Betsy became his devoted caretaker, managing their home, their pets, and his medical needs. They were a private, self-reliant couple, living out their final years far from the public eye. But their cherished isolation would become a fatal trap. In February 2025, Betsy began to feel unwell. On February 11th, she called a local health clinic, describing her symptoms as mere congestion. She made an appointment, but never showed up. It's believed she died around February 12th, a victim of hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare and deadly disease caused by inhaling particles from rodent droppings. Evidence of rodent activity was later found on their property, a silent and deadly threat they were likely unaware of. For 6 days, Gene Hackman remained alive in the house with his deceased wife, his mind clouded by dementia, his body weakened by heart disease. Deprived of Betsy's care, his already fragile health rapidly deteriorated. On February 18th, his pacemaker recorded its last heartbeat. It wasn't until February 26th, after friends and family grew concerned, that deputies entered the home. They found the couple, both deceased, along with one of their dogs, also dead in a crate. 2 other dogs were still alive. The scene was initially described as suspicious, but autopsies soon revealed the tragic truth. It was not a crime, but a medical horror story, a tragic coincidence of 2 separate natural deaths. The autopsy summary was stark. Betsy had succumbed to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, while Gene had died from severe atherosclerotic and hypertensive cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease contributing. Their deaths were a quiet, lonely tragedy, a testament to the dangers of isolation, especially for the elderly and infirm. The story of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa is a heartbreaking reminder that even for a Hollywood legend, the final act can be a silent and solitary one, a quiet fading away in a home that was supposed to be a sanctuary. Case 5. The NASCAR Champion's Final Ride. Greg Biffle, 55, was a NASCAR champion, a man who had built a career on speed, skill, and a fearless approach to risk. He, his wife Christina, and their 2 children, 14-year-old Emma and 5-year-old Ryder, were a picture-perfect racing family. On December 18, 2025, They were returning to their home base in Statesville, North Carolina, aboard a private Cessna Citation II business jet. The flight, which also included 3 other passengers, was a routine trip, a mix of family travel and business commitments. But as the jet approached Statesville Regional Airport in the late afternoon, the weather turned treacherous. Rain and low visibility made for a challenging landing. The aircraft either crashed short of the runway or veered off its side, slamming into the ground and erupting into a massive fireball. Thick, black smoke billowed into the sky as emergency crews rushed to the scene. But it was too late. The wreckage was engulfed in flames, and there were no survivors. All 7 people on board, including Greg, Christina, and their 2 young children, were killed. The official cause of death was blunt force trauma and thermal injuries, a brutal and instantaneous end. The NTSB launched a full investigation, with the preliminary assessment pointing to a loss of control or a misjudged approach in the difficult weather conditions. The crash was a devastating blow to the NASCAR community and a horrific tragedy for the Biffle family. A joint family statement described Greg and Christina as people who dedicated their lives to helping others and called the loss devastating beyond words. The incident highlighted the inherent risks of private aviation, where the convenience and luxury of a private jet come with a smaller margin for error than commercial flights. For Greg Biffle, a man who had stared down danger at 200 miles per hour, the final moments were not on the track, but in the sky, in a fiery crash that claimed his entire family. It was a tragic end to a life lived in the fast lane, a reminder that even for a champion, some risks are too great to overcome. Case 6. The dentist's double homicide. Not all celebrities are Hollywood stars. Some, like Michael David McKee, are pillars of their local community. A well-known and successful dentist, McKee and his romantic partner, Monique Tepe, were a local power couple, admired for their success and their seemingly perfect life. They were a fixture in their quiet, suburban neighborhood, a place where violent crime was a rarity. But behind the facade of their happy, successful lives, a dark threat was brewing. When Michael and Monique failed to show up for work or answer their phones, concerned friends and family called for a welfare check. Police entered their home and discovered a scene of pure butchery. Both had been brutally murdered in a violent double homicide. The house was a bloodbath, a gruesome testament to the rage of their killer. Investigators quickly determined that this was not a random act of violence. It was a targeted attack, a crime of passion. The suspect, they soon discovered, was a jealous ex-partner, someone whose threats had been escalating but had not been taken seriously enough. It was a classic case of domestic violence, a tragic story that plays out in communities everywhere, but one that is often hidden behind the closed doors of even the most successful and seemingly happy couples. The murders sent shockwaves through the community, a brutal reminder that professional success and a friendly smile can mask deep-seated conflicts, and that the most dangerous threats often come from those we once loved. For Michael and Monique, their status as local celebrities couldn't save them from a fate that is all too common, a final, violent end to a story of love gone wrong. From the heights of Hollywood to the quiet streets of suburbia, the stories of these 6 couples are a chilling reminder that fame, fortune, and love are no shield against the darkest impulses of human nature. Their lives were fairy tales, but their deaths were brutal, shocking, and tragic. They are a testament to the fact that even for those who seem to have it all, the final moments can be a descent into unimaginable horror. Their stories and their tragic ends will not be forgotten.